Here's one open secret that most people keep sleeping on. You don't need to become a tech pro to start an AI business in 2025. All you need are 3 simple skills, a business model that fits your strengths, and one solid move to land your first client. And I'm breaking it all down in this video, so don't miss a second. Hey, what's up? My name is Chris. I'm the co-founder of Torah Tech AI, and I've spent the last couple of years building real-world AI automations. And today, I'm going to show you how you can start your own AI business in 2025. Look, this space is blowing up like crazy. The current projection is a $1 trillion market by 2030. Plus, McKinsey says that half of office work could be completely automated quite soon. But here's a part I love the most because it's a part where I get to cash in. You don't even need to know how to code to tap into this huge opportunity. You just need to be curious. No-code and low-code tools can provide you with everything you need to build a real profitable AI business really fast. And over the next hour, I'm going to walk you through 3 key skills, 5 ways to earn, and 1 client move that actually works. By the way, if you want to access templates and systems you can plug into right away, we've got a bunch waiting inside our AI agency blueprint. So check it out. The link is in the description where you can use those to land your first automation client. And in the meantime, let's get right into the video. So why AI? Why now? So the first skill that I'm going to talk about is so straightforward, you can master it in days. But before we get into that, I want to broaden your mind a little bit so you really understand why AI matters. I know you want me to jump straight into the meat of the video, but look, motivation is just as important as having the right knowledge. And there's no source of motivation more powerful than yourself. If you understand why any of this matters, that's what's going to keep you going during the long, sleepless nights that are definitely going to come. So pay attention. AI is shaking things up. As already said, the global AI prediction is set at somewhere between $1 trillion and $2 trillion by 2030. And McKinsey says that up to half of the tasks that knowledge workers currently do, like writing reports, analyzing data, and drafting emails, may be automated as soon as the mid-2030s. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that AI will steal half of our jobs overnight, but it does mean that the nature of work is shifting fast. Whether you're in marketing, HR, operations, sales, whatever your role is, AI is going to disrupt it in some way. It's not just another tool like a calculator that assists you in some tasks. It's more like a general purpose technology that changes how everything works. Think electricity and the internet. In fact, if you've been paying attention, you notice how AI is gradually evolving from a buzzword into something much more real. Something that's becoming part of how businesses go about their day-to-day. And in the near future, we're going to see AI integrated into every department, the same way we treat IT or data today. Companies that figure this out on time and adopt early are going to be far ahead of the curve. And people in those companies who understand how to use these tools, well, they're going to be highly valuable. This is why learning how AI works isn't just nice to know, but it's actually becoming essential to future-proof your work. But here's the best part. For the first time ever, you do not need a technical background to build with AI. Tools like no-code platforms and drag-and-drop builders have made it possible to create useful systems and automations without needing to learn how to write a single line of code. All you need is an idea. Maybe there's a particular pain point that you think can be automated. With the type of tools we have, you can get a working prototype in days. And if you stick with it, you can have something production ready in just a few weeks. Now, you might have heard this quote by Naval Ravikant before, where he says, "Learn to sell, learn to build. If you can do both, you'll be unstoppable." And well, thanks to AI, you no longer have to choose between learning to sell and learning to build. You can do both and become unstoppable. And by the way, your experience in your niche, whether it's finance or marketing or operations, that's your superpower. You see, it's one thing to understand the technical side of AI, but it's quite another thing to understand real problems. What do customers really want? How do teams work? What bottlenecks exist? When you combine this domain knowledge with your ability to build lightweight AI automation tools and systems, you place yourself in a strong position. You go from simply being able to spot the problem to being able to ship the fix. Right now, this combination of skills is rare, but it won't be for long. So here's the deal. If you stick with this video and really pay attention, you're going to pick up a ton of valuable information. But much more than that, I need you to make a promise, not to me, but to yourself, that you'll take this next 90 days to apply what you've learned here. If you do that, you'll be ahead of 90% of people out there, and you'll be able to build some seriously cool stuff and potentially use it for your own business or sell it for thousands to future clients. If you're ready to take that deal, then let's jump into the 3 simple skills you need to master if you want to start an AI business in 2025. Skill 1, prompt engineering. Nail your prompts and you can cut down your workload by literally 70%. If you've tried messing around with AI prompts before, you can drop a comment and let me know how that went. But I think you'd probably agree with me that prompting is both simple and complex at the same time. Because if you don't prompt your AI well, you end up with inconsistent or outrightly useless results. So, what's the secret sauce? Structure. With the right structure, you can write prompts that consistently guarantee quality outputs. Now, let me put you on the best ones, and there are 3 of them. First, it's a long structured framework. You use this framework for complex tasks, like drafting a job proposal. For example, to guide the AI precisely, you need to factor in 7 sections. 1, start with role. Basically, you'll be assigning the AI a specific role. So, that could look like saying, you're a world-class HR specialist skilled in crafting compelling job proposals. And by doing it this way, you boost your AI's performance by setting expectations. Next is the objective. Here, you state the goal very clearly. So that could be, for example, write a job proposal to attract top talent. And after you've done that, then you want to add some more context. In other words, you're explaining why the task matters. So you could then say, this proposal drives business growth by hiring skilled candidates. Then the next section is the instruction section. This is where you include the rules. For instance, you're going to say something like, use 150 words max and follow the example format. And of course, you'd have to provide an example for the AI, which takes us to the example section. Now, the example section is critical. You want to provide at least 2 input-output pairs to show the AI exactly what you want. So that could look like a sample job description and its ideal proposal. All right, next up, we have the variables section, where you can customize the prompts to insert specific job titles or salaries. And then the last section is the notes section, where you reinforce key rules, like stay concise, 150 words max. Now, follow this framework and you can be sure of quality outputs even for the most intricate tasks. But if you have a less intricate task, something very simple you want the AI to do, then you want to use a short structured framework, which is basically just a stripped down version of the long structured framework. In the short structured framework, we knock off the context, instructions, and note sections and keep the role, objectives, examples, and variable sections. All right, this takes us to the 3rd framework, which is the agent prompting framework. This framework is for AI agents with decision-making roles. And since these agents typically use tools or sub-agents, the agent prompting framework adds an SOP section and a tool sub-agent section. Basically, the SOP section outlines the task sequence. For instance, you could say, first, analyze data, then query a sub-agent. The tools section, on the other hand, lists the available resources and ensures the agent knows when to use what. So that could look like you saying, if you need to search for data, use this tool. If you need help summarizing something, ask this sub-agent. This setup works best for complex or dynamic systems, like when your AI is running a full workflow, not just answering a quick question. All right, so we've looked at 3 different prompt frameworks, but how do you choose the right one? Well, it depends on the task. If you're doing a data extraction or classification, like finding URLs or maybe categorizing emails, the short framework with cheaper models work fine. But if you need the AI to write something, like a report or a long email, go with the long framework and use a more powerful model. Writing is tricky, and cheaper models make mistakes quite often. And then if you're transforming or checking data, like converting JSON or reviewing an AI's answer, you'll also want a longer prompt because that will give the AI more context and to be more accurate. And if your tasks involve decision-making, like choosing between multiple actions or coordinating tools, use the agent framework. It gives the AI the extra structure it needs to make smarter choices. All right, so 2 things I'm going to say before we move on to the next skill is about chain prompting. When you have a complex task, it's always best to break it into smaller steps, with each step focusing on one task that feeds into the next. It's important because it keeps the AI from getting overwhelmed and also helps to guarantee consistent results. All right, and the second thing before we jump onto the next skill is language models. So there are 2 types of language models. There are System 1 models that are fast and cheap for simple tasks, and then there are System 2 models, like advanced reasoning AIs that handle complex tasks and cost more. It's important to match the right model to the right task, or else you might end up spending a lot of money and still not getting the right quality of results that you're looking for. But yes, please master prompting and you'll soon be able to build AI systems that deliver every single time. All right, and moving on to skill number 2, which is workflow automation. Skill 2, workflow automation. Absolutely no one likes manual data work, right? And this is where workflow automation comes in. Imagine being able to slash hours of manual work with a single setup. Well, AI workflow automation makes that possible. It's a hands-on skill that connects different apps and software to handle repetitive tasks like syncing leads to a CRM or sending out personalized emails. Workflow automations are perfect for routine business operations thanks to their mode of operation, which follows clear rules and logic. But adding AI to the mix makes the system smarter so that you're no longer just moving data along. You can also analyze or change the data mid-process. Now, let's talk about how to make these systems. Contrary to what you might think, it's actually quite easy to build an AI workflow automation. You don't even need to know how to code. You just need to learn 5 core steps, and with no-code tools like N8N and Make, you can build an AI automation in just a few days. All right, let's run through these steps. Number 1, plan the process. You want to start by decoding how a business task works. Most business processes are undocumented, and most founders can't properly itemize how a process flows from start to finish. So, your first job would have to be to clarify the steps and outcomes, and then map the flow using diagram tools to outline inputs and outputs. For example, say you're planning a lead capture. The flow might look something like this. Form submits, AI scores the lead, CRM stores it. This roadmap gives you a visual that will help ensure that your automation fits the goal. So you don't have to keep going back to iterate, which wastes a lot of time. 2, link tools with APIs and webhooks. All right, so the next step is where you get the tools like your form tool and CRM to talk to each other. And that's where APIs come in. Think of an API like a digital delivery guide. You give it an address called an endpoint, some instructions like what you want to do, add a contact, send an email, whatever, and the actual data you want to send. For example, you might say, hey HubSpot, here's a new contact. Email john@example.com. Please add him to the list. Now that, my friends, is an API call, and it's made up of 4 things. Endpoint, which is basically where you're sending the data. The method, like post to create something or get to grab info. Headers, kind of like your ID badge, so the system knows it's you. The body, this is the actual data, usually in the format called JSON. Now, JSON might sound scary, but it's literally just text in a structure like what I'm about to show you guys on screen. Super simple. It's like passing a note, but in robot language. Now, let's talk webhooks. You can think of them like sensors in a smart home. So when someone submits a form, for example, the webhook would carry out something like, hey, something happened. Let's fire off the automation. This automatically kicks off your workflow without any button pushing needed. But here's the fun part. No-code tools like Make or N8N already handle most of the parts that have to do with APIs and webhooks for you. So all you're left to do is just drag and drop. Why then am I spending all this time teaching you all of this? Well, it's because it's always a good idea to know how the plumbing works underneath so you can build smarter, more flexible workflows. All right, let's move on to the next step. One of the first things that trips people up when building automations is understanding data types, especially things like JSON and arrays. They sound super technical, but honestly, once you get the basics, it's not that bad at all. So let's break it down step by step. First, what is JSON? JSON stands for JavaScript Objective Notation. Don't worry about the name. It's just a simple way for apps to organize and share data when they talk to each other, like when you connect tools using APIs or automation platforms. Here's what it looks like. I'll put it up on screen for you guys. You can think of it like this. The curly brackets hold the data, and inside you've got a key. In this case, it's email, and a value, like john@example.com. This format is everywhere in automation. And yes, tools like Make or Zapier or N8N already understand JSON, so they do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. But still, it really helps to know how to read and recognize it. So next up are arrays. Basically, arrays are just lists, and that's it. Let's say you've got a list of emails. An array might look something like this, which again, I'll populate on the screen for you guys. Arrays use square brackets to wrap around multiple items. Each item inside can be its own little object, like an email or a task. And here's where it gets powerful. Most no-code tools can automatically loop through arrays for you. So instead of sending one email manually, it can go through your list and send it to every person one by one. Same for updating CRM records, or handling submissions, or processing a batch of orders. It's pretty cool, isn't it? Now, there's one more piece to this, which is nested structures. Sometimes the data gets a bit more complex. You might have objects inside arrays, or arrays inside other objects. Now, here's a quick example that I'll put up on screen again. And that is what we call a nested structure. In simple terms, it's just combining JSON and arrays to represent more detailed information, like an order with multiple products. Again, don't stress. Zapier, Make, and N8N can usually handle this just fine, but knowing how to spot these patterns helps when you're setting up these things or troubleshooting. Now, I know all of this can look intimidating at first, and a lot of people hit pause here because it feels too technical. But really, it's just about learning how to read and shape data. That's it. Again, you don't need to become a programmer. You just need to get familiar with how is data structured and how to reformat it or loop through it and how to send it where it needs to go. And once you build your first real automation, all of this will click and you'll realize it's way simpler than it seemed. You'll also be ahead of 99% of people who never gave it a shot. All right, let's move on to the next step. Every automation needs a place to store and manage information, like your leads, tasks, or customer orders. This is where tools like Airtable and Google Sheets come in. Airtable works like a spreadsheet, but is much more powerful. On Airtable, you can link records together, set up automations, and even use it as a simple dashboard for your clients. And Google Sheets is great too, but it's probably best to use that for smaller or simpler setups. For example, you could use a table to track where each lead is in your sales process. And as your automation updates that data, like changing a lead status, everything stays in sync across all your tools. This kind of setup keeps your systems running smoothly and makes it easier to scale as your business grows. Now to the fifth step. You probably already expect that even the best automations will eventually run into problems. Sometimes it's that an app doesn't respond, or maybe some data is missing, or maybe something just breaks. And this is why testing is key. Start by running your automation with different types of inputs, like an empty form or a weird email address, just to see how it handles edge cases. Look for anything that might go wrong. Once you've done that, then you're going to want to add some error handling. Error handling is like adding little safety nets to keep things running smoothly, even if something goes wrong somehow. And there's a couple of options that you could try. Option 1 is retry automatically. So if something fails, like an email didn't send or something, your system could be set up to try again automatically after a few minutes. Option 2 is send an alert. So if the error keeps happening, your automation can send a message to you or your team letting you know that something went wrong while carrying out the task. Option 3 is to log the issue. The system can keep a record of any errors so you can go back and fix them later. This helps you track patterns and improve your system. And once again, just like with JSON and arrays, AI handles most of the testing for you, as most no-code tools like Make, N8N, and Zapier come with built-in debuggers which let you test each step and see exactly where things go wrong. Alternatively, at our agency, we build our own testing tools that test all our automations continuously and we log all the errors, but that's a conversation for later on. But yeah, then again, like I said prior, you guys want to have a basic idea of how things work anyways. But yeah, AI does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So that's it. The 5 essential skills that you need when building an AI automation workflow. All right, let's move on to the third skill that you need to start an AI business in 2025. So first off, what are AI agents? And how are they different from something like AI workflow automation? The easiest way to explain it is this. AI workflow automation is when you set up a series of steps or rules to connect different tools or AI models to do a task. So basically, everything follows a script. But with agents, however, it's different. This time, you're giving the AI more freedom. So instead of following a strict set of rules, you give the agent a goal, and it figures out what step it needs to take to reach that goal. Now, let's break things down a little more. AI agents are made up of 4 components. One is the language model, which is like the agent's brain that does the thinking and planning. The second component is where you have the tools, which are external actions that the agent can take, like using Google search, scraping a website, or interacting with a spreadsheet. 3 is memory, which helps the agent remember past conversations or actions, so it doesn't forget what it already did. And then 4 is knowledge, which is used for pulling in large chunks of outside information. Most of the time, agents do this using something called RAG, which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And all that really means is the agent can search a special database for relevant information, kind of like doing a smart Google search. So, to give you a simple example of how an AI agent works, let's say you build a research agent. When you're setting it up, you can give it a couple of tools, one to search the web and another to scrape information from websites. Now that it has those tools, you can give it a simple prompt like, do in-depth research on how AI agents work and write a report about it. This single prompt is all your agent needs, and it will figure out how to carry out the entire task on its own. And that's how it's different to automations, where you need to clarify every step. So with your research agent, for instance, to write the report you asked for, first, it would search for useful articles. Then it would scrape those websites for content, and then finally, it would use all that information to write the report. And you see here, you didn't have to tell the agent how to do each step. It decided the best way to go about that task itself, which is pretty cool. So that's the key difference. Workflow automation follows rules you give it, and AI agents figure it out for themselves. Now, pay attention because it gets a bit more advanced from this point onwards. For now, single AI agents work best when they're focused on simple, one-task jobs. So the more you ask them to do, the more likely they are to mess up on things or get overwhelmed. If you have a more complex workflow, the best way to go about that so your results are reliable is to break it down and give different parts to different agents. Say, for example, you want your system to do research on a topic, write a blog post, write a LinkedIn post, and then schedule both of those to publish. Instead of giving one agent all those jobs, what you should do is split them up. So, assign a research agent to gather information, a blog agent to write and publish the blog post, a LinkedIn agent to write and schedule the LinkedIn post, and then assign a manager agent to coordinate it all. Now, look what happens when you do that. So here's your prompt. Create a blog and LinkedIn post on how to build an AI agent and publish them both. Now, when you send that, the manager agent divides that up among the other agents. It tells the research agent to do research, and then it sends the findings to the blog agent to write and publish the blog. And then it gives that information to the LinkedIn agent to write and schedule the post. You see, each agent sticks to its lane, and your system runs way more smoothly because each part is simpler and more focused. So, when should you use agents and when should you stick with workflow automation? Well, it really depends on the job. If a task is repetitive and follows a clear structure, like sending emails, updating a database, or moving files, there's no point bringing out the big guns. In other words, workflow automation is your go-to. It's more reliable, it's cheaper to run, and it doesn't break as easily as AI agents. AI agents, on the other hand, since when you're dealing with complex or unpredictable situations or tasks where you're not even sure of the exact steps ahead of time, in those cases, workflow automations won't do the work as well. Just keep in mind though that, of course, AI agents can be very powerful. They also make more mistakes and often need a human to keep an eye on them. But anyways, once you build one, it's usually easy to reuse in other workflows. And since we are on this topic, let me tell you the best use cases for AI agents right now. So there are two areas where AI agents are already making a big impact in business. The first is customer-facing agents. These are chatbots or voice agents that talk directly to customers on your website or through WhatsApp or even over the phone, because every customer conversation is different, and AI agents are a better fit than rigid automation systems. They can remember past chats, handle unexpected questions, and make decisions on the spot. The next is internal process automation. The idea is to use AI agents inside your company to help with day-to-day operations. For example, helping HR answer questions, managing content creation, or coordinating tasks across departments. Right now, most companies are just starting out with automation, so simpler workflow automation is often the best place to begin. But over time, as the AI improves, we'll likely see agents take over more of these internal tasks too. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, everything AI and automation is pointing towards AI agents. So in the future, instead of building huge complicated workflows, you probably just type something like, schedule a newsletter with my latest blog post, summarize it for LinkedIn, and email it to my audience. And with that simple prompt, an AI agent will handle the entire process for you, deciding what to do, using the right tools, and getting the task done. Now, obviously, we're not quite there yet, and I already told you about the drawbacks with AI agents, but I can tell you that we're getting really close. In the meantime, workflow automation is still extremely valuable, and it's something every business should be using right now. It's cost-effective, dependable, and great for all those everyday tasks that you just need to get done. And as AI agents improve, you'll be able to build even smarter systems on top of what you already have. Okay, before we wrap up the skills section and move on to the business model sections, let's talk about AI coding assistants real quick. With tools like Cursor, this is one area that is very interesting to explore in 2025. I mean, these tools literally allow you to build whole apps and software even if you've never written code before. But I'd advise not starting out with building apps because it will take away all the time you could be using to learn other important skills that actually help you get clients and grow a business. Learn the other skills we already talked about, and then later, once you've been doing it and you've been in the game for a while, you can then check out AI coding assistants. All right, so we've been talking about learning skills, but what about the tools? What tools should you learn as a beginner especially if you don't have a tech background? Well, here's the first thing I'm going to say. I know that the skills we just looked at and the tools I'm about to tell you can feel just a teeny bit overwhelming, and to be completely honest, you always have the option of finding a technical co-founder so you can just cut out all the technicalities for yourself. That is definitely one way you could go. But if you want my advice, I tell you to learn the no-code tools and actually try build stuff for yourself. Trust me, knowing the very basics at least always pay off in the future. And here are 3 reasons why. The first is that it's not just the tech that creates the value. Real value comes when tech meets real-world expertise. So for instance, it's always going to give totally different outcomes when a tech person builds an AI newsletter system and when someone with actual marketing background builds the same system. Now, of course, the latter is going to be much more valuable because someone with domain knowledge built it. It just makes sense, right? Second reason is that learning the tools will help you see what's possible. Even a basic understanding of AI workflows will help you pick out automation opportunities that others miss. Plus, you'll know how to scope projects realistically so you don't end up over-promising to your clients and investors. And of course, conversation with developers is much easier when you just speak the same language. And that takes us to the third reason that you should at least learn the basics, which is that these tools and platforms are actually way more beginner-friendly than they look. Yes, of course, they look a bit intimidating at first, but as you continue with them, you'll soon realize that most of them follow the same logic. Just learn how to drag blocks, structure workflows, and think clearly about inputs and outputs. And if you want to speed things up, we've got a few quick start examples and cheat sheets inside AI Agency Blueprint to help you get there faster. So go ahead and check out the link in the description. Anyways, once you get a hang of it, it takes a couple weeks and you'll soon be building powerful automations all on your own. Okay, ready to meet your tools? All right, and let's go over the tools that you guys are going to be using. Now, one rule of thumb to keep in mind is that the easier a tool is to use, the quicker you can build, but the less flexible it is and the more pricey it will be. But the more technical the tool is, the more flexible and less expensive it's going to be. A great example and an easy tool to use is Make. If you want to build something fast, it's great, but when you start to scale, it starts to get expensive and limited. And then we have N8N. Now, this tool requires a bit more of a learning curve, but you get a lot more control. There are some tools that specialize in building AI agents. That's where Relevance AI comes in. And again, N8N comes in. And then others focus more on workflow automation like, again, Make.com and Zapier. All right, so where should you start? If you don't have a background in tech, I'll suggest going to Make.com or Relevance AI because they're very visual, intuitive, and powerful. And with Make.com, you'll learn core automation logic, so how to use APIs, manage data, and build flows. And then Relevance AI will then supplement that with basic agent design and a clean and accessible interface. And then once you've got those down, you'd be ready to level up to N8N. But in my opinion, I'd just start with N8N because the learning curve isn't that steep. And nowadays, N8N can pretty much do everything that Make can do. And N8N is the platform to do everything on nowadays. And again, if you put in the work and get even remotely decent at it, you'll be able to get a lot out of it with better customization, lower costs, and you can even start self-hosting if you want. And for chat-based experiences, like AI assistants, support bots, or scripted flows, then VoiceFlow and Flowise are your guys to go to. One last thing, and then we'll jump into the business models to consider. Again, don't be overwhelmed. Most of these tools share the same building blocks under the hood. So once you get the hang of the building blocks, those skills just transfer across all different platforms. That's why the real skill is design. Much more than hard tools, you want to learn how to train your mind to think like a designer, mapping out the logic, handling edge cases, and structured workflows. This kind of thinking applies everywhere, regardless of the tool. But don't feel boxed in by my suggestions. If they don't work for you, feel free to ignore all of that and just pick your favorite and then get to work. And that's how every expert in this space got started anyways. All right, if you're enjoying this tutorial so far, my AI community is in the link in the description where we show you guys how to use these tools and build and grow. And also sign up to my weekly newsletter where I'll be sharing useful information about AI trends and how to leverage them to build a profitable AI business right now. All right, moving on to the business models. Okay, back to the business models. Before I reveal them, let me make one thing super clear. AI on its own is not the business. The business is solving a problem that people will pay for. This is why the first model I want to talk about is the AI automation agency. It's not the flashiest model, but a lot of people are making a ton of money doing this business, including myself. Let me explain. So there are two ways most people approach automation. Some go the general route, while others go the niche route. One tends to work sometimes and the other one usually works. Can you guess which one is which? The general route tends not to work all the time. And why? Because it's too broad. The generalists are trying to automate anything for just anyone, which sounds flexible, but it also makes the assumption that businesses actually understand automation deeply enough to ask for it, when in reality, most don't. Trust me, no one is Googling, I need a N8N scenario to automate outbound with hooks. They're just drowning in repetitive tasks and don't even know what's possible. And that's why the route of becoming more of a generalist, and by generalist I mean by going after a bunch of different niches, usually they fail because they have no clear offer. And sure, they might have great skills. They're great with make.com or N8N or custom GBTs, but there's no clear, I help X achieve Y with a Z. And so they're stuck in chasing leads, hopping on sales calls that go nowhere, and trying to explain the value of what they do to someone who doesn't really get it. And this is why the people winning right now are the niche guys. They have picked a particular pain point and they've built a very specific offer. Now, let me give you an example. You could have an agency that helps YouTubers turn every long form video into 15 short clips, a newsletter, a tweet thread, and a blog post automatically. This agency is not selling AI, it's selling content leverage. Another agency might help local med spas follow up with every single inbound lead via AI DMs and book them into Calendly and send reminders all the way down to the appointment. These guys aren't selling GPTs, they're actually selling more booked calls. Do you see the difference? The tech is not the value, it's just the tool that unlocks the value for the business. So rather than saying, hey, we build great AI systems, a winning pitch sounds more like, we help a specific person automate a specific task so they get a specific outcome without specific headache. Now, once you dial this in, the agency model pretty much runs like a well-oiled machine. From this point, you can create a full automation stack using just a few basic tools like Make, Zapier, ChatGPT, and of course, N8N. And don't forget what I said earlier. You don't need to code. Your bigger focus should be on being a problem solver and speaking the language of the business you're pitching to. Now, here's a wild part. Once you build a system for one client, you can often reuse 80% of it for others in that same niche. So instead of selling time, you'll now be selling repeatable results, which is where things start to scale. All right, so that's the AI automation model. The next model is for people who want to build once and sell forever. Our second business model is AI productized services, which is a natural next step after a niche agency. Also, if you're a freelancer, a consultant, or someone with specific domain expertise in areas like content marketing, email outreach, SEO, or operations, this model could be a natural entry point for you. Now, at first glance, this model looks like a traditional service business, as you'll be delivering a repeatable solution to a specific business problem. This solution could be anything from lead generation to paid media to email outreach. But here's a key difference. Instead of relying on a growing team of operators, you'd enhance and systemize the backend using AI and automation. And this unlocks two huge advantages. First, the value of your offer increases as the automation adds efficiency, speed, and better results in most cases. Secondly, the model becomes scalable because most of the manual work will be handled by systems rather than people. So instead of selling AI, your business becomes about selling outcomes, which could be more leads or more reach or more client conversations. AI just becomes a machine powering the delivery in the background. A good example of this business model would be a service that helps B2B founders grow their brand online. As you guys know, the traditional way to grow your brand would be to hire a full team and create and post content all day. But with AI productization, the business only has to record one video per month, and then your AI system can help them automatically generate and schedule dozens to hundreds of pieces of content across social media platforms. Now, your client gets the visibility and the lead flow they need, and they don't have to manage a content pipeline. Now, because the niche will remain consistent, this process can be reused across clients with minimal tweaks. And that right there is the superpower behind AI productization, because it's built around repeatable processes and not custom work every time. This model is super scalable, and you just need a clear market positioning, automation, and systemized delivery. Now, how much can you charge for AI productized systems? Honestly, it's up to you. Many AI productized service providers charge an initial setup fee for implementation and a monthly retainer for continued support. Some even push for a performance-based revenue share. So for instance, a lead gen service might charge $3,000 per month, plus a percentage of any revenue generated from the book calls or closed deals. It's pretty good, isn't it? But of course, there's a tiny catch, which is with this business model, one major challenge you're going to face is ensuring consistency across clients while minimizing customization. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is the more a system has to be tweaked for each new client, the harder it is to scale. However, if you package your service tightly enough to keep your niche super focused, then the model can easily grow without a bloated team. Plus, it's a great fit for markets where clients are already used to paying for outcomes. Think B2B sales, high-ticket consulting, or performance marketing. Just build it correctly, and the AI productized service model can become a platform for even greater leverage. Perhaps you could even transition from there into a software model, or licensing system, or hybrid product offer. And that's what we're going to be looking into next. Model 3, AI SaaS. Many people often say that SaaS is dead. Well, if by that they mean the existing overpriced enterprise SaaS solutions, then sure, SaaS is dead. But with AI disrupting the space like it's disrupting everything else, SaaS applications can now be built at much lower costs, which makes traditional SaaS pricing harder to justify and opens up a new window of opportunities for people like you and me. I'm thinking specifically of niches that have been underserved by traditional SaaS because building solutions for them is either too expensive or too complex. With a mix of no-code tools, low-code tools, and AI coding agents, it's now cheaper than ever to both launch a minimal viable product and pack more value into a product. And to show you just how huge the market potential is for AI SaaS, Y Combinator's latest batch had almost exclusively AI SaaS startups, and it's been one of their most successful and fastest growing batches ever. So this is obviously a profitable model, and we have the data to prove it. However, that said, for most people new to AI or those transitioning into this space without a strong go-to-market team, experience, or an existing audience or distribution, AI SaaS probably is not the best place to start. Now, before I go into what models I believe are best for beginners, let's first talk about the final business model that's making waves right now, which is AI education. The opportunities in AI reskilling and upskilling are enormous. You know, a lot of people tend to focus on jobs that will be lost because of AI, but they don't realize a massive number of new jobs that AI will create as businesses and society adapt. A post-AI world might look radically different from this one, but it doesn't mean that there wouldn't still be work. There'll just be new kinds of work, requiring new kinds of skills. As a matter of fact, we can expect literally billions of people needing retraining and upskilling just to keep pace with an AI-powered economy. But this opens huge opportunities in both B2B education, helping companies reskill their workforce, and B2C education, which is, where you basically help individuals stay competitive and capitalize on new roles. I know it's tempting to say, I'm just going to the education route and forget about all the tools and stuff, but words of advice, you don't want to do that. AI education isn't something you can do by just merely reading. Not only will implementing real-world AI automations yourself help you to become more authoritative as an educator, but it will also help you identify where the real potential lies in this space. So whichever way you look at it, it's definitely to your advantage that you want to learn how to implement. All right, so which should you consider as a beginner? I already mentioned before that you shouldn't be attempting AI SaaS as of now, but I didn't exactly explain why. So yeah, I'm going to explain why. If you're new to the space, starting with a niche agency or a productized service model is probably best, because this way you get to discover real problems that AI can solve, refine your solution with actual clients, and then maybe build that into a self-serve platform later. It's much better than jumping into AI SaaS because the truth is, AI SaaS can easily become a double-edged sword. And by that, I mean that the very things that makes these models so wildly lucrative will soon be the very reasons why you might struggle. If you don't understand, let me explain this further. Technology and product development are fastly becoming more democratized thanks to AI. Literally anyone, even non-coders, will soon be able to build powerful products using AI coding agents and no-code platforms. And then when that happens, competition will get very fierce, and it will boil down to those who can deliver and distribute fastest and widest, rather than those that make the best products. In other words, you might have a groundbreaking AI tool, and it wouldn't matter much because you don't have a strong go-to-market team or effective distribution channel. And this is why it's best to begin with an agency or a productized service. And if you begin there, you'll be in touch with real world problems, refine your solutions, and then build your market and distribution channels. Once you've done that, then you can look into an AI SaaS model. Because honestly, the best AI SaaS ideas often come from repeatedly solving the same problem for multiple clients and having the right channels to reach your target audience. And since we're here talking about things you want to avoid, I want to mention something else that you guys should try and avoid, especially because you're new to the space. Now, the mistake that I want to talk about is hourly billing. To be frank, hourly billing just makes no sense with AI work because clients shouldn't pay you for your hours, they should pay you for your outcomes. Hourly rates will only cap your earnings and reduce your perceived value by positioning you as a mere builder rather than a high value partner. So never charge by the hour. All right, now we move to the final section of the video. And I hope it's been worth your time so far. You can let me know if there's something you wish I've covered in the comments below, and I'll work on that in the upcoming videos. For now, however, let's talk about how you can make some money. AI might make the building easy, but it's clients that make you money. Look, the game has changed a lot. If we were in the early 2000s, then maybe having an excellent product would have been good enough. However, these days, it's totally flipped. Now, having a decent product is just fine. Just make sure you have a strong audience to ship to, and you'll outperform the best tech that nobody sees. So, how do you get eyes on your product? There's a few channels you can explore, and I want you to pick one and go all in on it. And before you know it, you've turned followers, connections, and even strangers into paying clients. Now, the first is social media. And which platform should you specifically use? I'd say you want to go for platforms that offer longer content types like YouTube. And you'll need to show up consistently and offer value. And before you know it, you're turning your followers into clients. And the other platform I recommend is LinkedIn, which is much better for demos or written breakdowns. It's really up to you, whichever one you think suits you best. You could pick one or you could pick all of them. Whatever you do, just show up consistently and offer value. And before you know it, you're turning followers into clients. If you want quicker results, however, you might want to go for the cold outreach route. And I know it might seem old school, but when done right, cold outreach really works. Besides, AI has now made it easy to send out personalized emails at scale, which means better chances for conversion. You could also try cold calling, especially if you're targeting niche use cases like AI voice agents. Perhaps the only thing I'd add to this is that you're going to need thick skin because you'd be getting a bit of outright rejection, so you want to keep that in mind. That said, you definitely don't want to sleep on AI communities. And of course, a very good AI community to join, not so much to find clients, but to learn how to build this business and fulfill your service is my own AI community, AI Agency Blueprint. But yeah, besides that, you also want to get on Reddit threads, Discord servers, Facebook groups, anywhere really. Just show up, answer questions, or DM someone with a helpful solution. These communities are a literal hub for business owners who are already looking for AI help. With these guys, you don't have to spend time warming them up or convincing them. They are ready to buy in right now. So it's low friction, high reward. Now, if you're someone serious about getting into these rooms and closing real deals, stop waiting and join AI Agency Blueprint. It's already live, filled with founders, tools, and actual client getting strategies that are working right now. The link's in the description, so go ahead and check it out. All right, so the next set of ideas I'm going to be talking about are a bit more niche. For instance, you could go to AI meetups or online events. These events gather decision makers who already care about what you do in one single room. So that's a huge opportunity. And then Upwork is also extremely good if you're persistent and have results to show. You can start to gain traction with time with your Upwork profile. Now, if you have a bit of budget, you can test LinkedIn or YouTube ads, but just make sure that they link to something valuable, like a free AI guide or an automation demo, or a really good lead magnet. Okay, so at this point, I think I should give you a bit of warning. I know the urge to want to try as many channels as possible. After all, the more you get the word out, about your business, the faster you can get clients, right? Well, it's not that straightforward. After being around for a bit, I can tell you one thing. Don't try everything at once. You'll get spread thin, you don't have time to do the actual building, and you'll burn out. Instead, pick 3 channels, preferably one that plays to your strengths, and get great at it. So I would recommend building an Upwork profile, starting cold email, and getting into AI communities. And that's how you turn your attention into revenue. Whatever the case, keep in mind that client acquisition is not optional, it's survival. So pick 3 channels and commit to them, and be sure to treat it like your business depends on it, because trust me, it does. AI is wide open, but only the ones who figure out distribution will win. So here's your challenge. Go ahead right now, try something. We've talked about tools and skills you should learn, but I want you to go ahead and mess around with them. Find a template, then tweak it or break it and fix it. And that's how you learn. If you've got a day job, consider offering to automate something at your current company. If you're freelancing, throw in AI as one of your services. Most businesses haven't even touched this stuff yet, so even the basic automations are impressive. And don't forget to share whatever you've built. As I said earlier, having deliverability and distribution beats having an excellent product any day, anytime. So make sure to document your progress on social media, because that's how you build your brand. I hope the last hour and a bit was valuable to you guys. Until next time, have a great one.